These are 10 players you should consider for your fantasy team, but no one's picking them, and I'm not sure why. Welcome to the Gianni Batici YouTube show. Hope you guys are well. In today's show, we are going to be looking at 10 players. Only 2 of them, by the way, are over 3% owned, but most of them are sub 1% owned. Now, these are players I'm considering, and I think you probably should be too. So before we see the 10, if you fancy hitting that thumbs up button, hit the like button, but also subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. Thank you guys for supporting. But look, without further ado, let's have a look who we've got up first. And this is a player that's really caught my eye in pre-season. Of course, he has for many, and that is Dejan Kulusevski. He is a 6.5 midfielder, and pre-season playing up front for Spurs. Like, this is a guy that's playing number 9 for Tottenham, who are a team that historically, under Postecoglou, if we go off last season, they start well. They score goals early. And I think when I look at the Spurs fixtures away to Leicester on the opening day, for example, it's a really good game for Kulu to get some points. Will he start number 9 against Leicester away on the opening day? I think he will. Will he start number 9 all season? Probably not. Will he start number 9 by September, October? Probably not. Spurs are linked with a forward. Richarlison is unavailable at the moment. Son is mostly playing down the left-hand side, and he's playing really nicely with Kulu, who's getting goals and assists pre-season. Now, he's only 1.6% owned. He's only in not even 2% of teams. 6.5 mid, playing number 9 for a very attacking team that will start well. Also, guys, this is key. Kulusevski has had a summer break. I expect him to be fresh. And when I look at Spurs, Son's had a summer break. Kulusevski's had a summer break. Brennan Johnson's had a summer break. I look at a lot of their players, a lot of those pictured here on screen, and straight away you go, yeah, they should be well rested. They're going to start the season well. So Kulusevski, for me, in at number 1, definitely has to be considered, guys. Before we look at my other 9 picks, of which there's 4 other mid-price midfielders that I like, let me introduce you to Sleeper. Many of you would have heard about Sleeper in the fantasy community in the last couple of days. Now, Sleeper is a fantastic app, and they have partnered with me to give away a ton of prizes to you guys. I am going to be giving away a PS5 in the opening weekend of FPL. One of you guys can win a PS5 if you download the Sleeper app. So guys, do consider downloading the app. The link is in the description. All you've got to do with Sleeper, it's pretty much a predictor game. I've started this Pick'em League, right? And we take 10 games each weekend, and you literally pick home win, away win, or draw. Points are totaled up both every week, but also throughout the season. And we've got competitions monthly and competitions for the season. But I'm starting with a weekly competition. Predict the outcome of 10 games to win a PS5. Guys, I'm only expecting a couple of hundred in there. Your chances of winning, they're not that slim. So link in the description. Literally click the link on your mobile. If you're having any issues, use the QR code on screen. Scan it on your mobile. Pause the screen right now. Scan that link and download Sleeper, and you'll straight away through that link join my mini league. Pretty cool. PS5 opening weekend. I'm buzzing about that. Hey, I'm entering too. So is my wife. Okay, let's carry on then with the football, shall we? So we've spoken Kulusevski. How about we move to the Arsenal midfielders? Now, I love Saka and Odegaard, sure, but there is a differential here that no one's talking about. He's 4% owned. He's in very few teams. He's 7 million, and that is Martinelli. This is the heat map from last season. I got this off the new Scout app, by the way. Martinelli's heat map is always impressive when he plays. Now, before we just look at the detail here, because I'm going to compare his heat maps to Saka's, it's worth noting, 2 seasons ago, Martinelli, Odegaard, Saka, they all scored the same points, give or take. Because of that, last season in FPL, they were all 8.5 million. It was a fair price for them all. Saka excelled, he's now 10. Odegaard performed to par, he's still an 8.5 mid. And Martinelli, with his injuries, he lost a bit of form, he lost his place at times to Trossard. He's dropped to 7 million. If, and it's a huge if you think he's going to be starting game week 1 and you think he's nailed in the 11, 7 million, guys. His open play threat is insane. Like, this is his heat map. Compare it to Saka. In terms of open play, look at all that over the halfway line. He doesn't do any defensive work pretty much, and he does a ton in the area. Look at Saka's. A little bit more tracking back from Saka. a little bit wider from Saka. Still lots in the area, but Martinelli is very central and direct, and that is what I love about him. Now, I'm not saying Martinelli is a better pick than Saka. He's not. Saka comes with 90-minute guarantee. He comes with start guarantee, and he's on penalties. Martinelli shares set pieces. If you think he's going to be in the team, for the price point at 7 million, that is a way we could potentially look to cover that Arsenal attack early if you think he's starting. Obviously, Trossard, even Gabby Jesus can play on that left-hand side. And of course, we have to note that. But if you can't reach Saka or Odegaard, do consider Martinelli. So that's 1 and 2. Who do we have in at number 3? Well, look, in at number 3, how about we turn our attention to another midfielder, 3% owned, 7.5 million. Again, like Kulusevski, I think he'll play up front, and that is Diogo Jota, guys. So Diogo Jota, seriously, I like Diogo Jota as an early season punt. And that's partly because Luis Diaz and Darwin and Gakpo all went really far in the summer tournaments. So they've had a much smaller pre-season than Jota. So come game week 1, I expect Jota to start. Now, he hit the post in his first 45 minutes of the US tour. Fortunately, he didn't score, because if he had scored, everyone would be putting him in their teams against Arsenal. They won 2-1 Liverpool. Salah scored. Jota hit the post early on. Now, this is from the new Fantasy Football Scout app, which I love that you can filter and search specific players and compare. So I'm comparing the stats of 3 Liverpool players that could play number 9 this season. And most of the time, it'll only be one of them on the pitch. And Jota's a big, big risk. But if he's starting, his numbers are better than the others. Last season, he started like 14 games. So this is comparing overall stats, knowing he started 14, Gakpo 17, Darwin 22. Goals, Jota scored 10 in 14 starts. Darwin scored 11 in 22 starts, Gakpo 8 in 17 starts. So when we're looking at the actual output of these players per match on average, Jota is better than the other 2. When we look at the expected data, however, it should be noted, Darwin always comes out on top. But we know Darwin can't hit a barn door. So Darwin, just look at the minutes, because just look at the minutes per XG. The only concerning thing about Jota here is when he plays, every XG he gets takes 200 minutes plus. For Darwin, he gets an expected goal every 129 and Gakpo 194. Expected assists per minute, again, the output of Jota is the weakest of the 3 in terms of expected assists, and he's over 650 minutes. So err on the side of caution. It's a very risky pick, but it's a high upside pick, and it is Ipswich. And if you're not going Salah, maybe you want to consider, Diogo Jota. So look, we've spoken Kulusevski and Jota. We've spoken Grealish. No, we've not spoken Grealish. Let's move to Grealish now, shall we? So Jack Grealish is, again, a player that's getting a full preseason. And this goes such a long way, guys. A full preseason, for me, come game week 1 is influencing my decisions. So Jack Grealish, full preseason. What has Pep said about him? Well, when they were in New York, he said he was aggressive. His controlling is good, but he's making 4 or 5 shots. And Grealish has spoken about wanting to take more shots, and that's something him and Pep are working on. He had 4 or 5 shots in this game, and you know, Pep has said, I'm really pleased with him. I'm really pleased with the game he played. More direct. We're fed up of watching Grealish do good work down the wing, but then pass it backwards. And the Aston Villa Grealish was a good FPL asset. The Man City Grealish, we've never really picked him in FPL. If he starts scoring goals, we will. At 6.5 million, it's a cheap route to that Man City attack for someone that we feel safe for minutes early in the season. He'll start on that left-hand side. So do consider Jack Grealish for your FPL team. He's not one for me, but if you want to cover Man City, he might be away. Sure, he's not going to cover Haaland's points. So I love Kulu probably the most, and Jota. Martinelli and Grealish, that's sort of back of my mind still. So that's 4 really good midfielders. But we should just touch on a 5th midfielder in Kamada at Palace. Now, Kamada is 0.6% owned. Same as Grealish. They're both 0.6. They're in no teams. No one in your mini leagues owning Grealish or Kamada. Kamada is 5.5 million. Crystal Palace attack well under Glasner. And again, cheaper than Mateta. Cheaper than Eze. A guy, I think, because he's worked with Glasner at Frankfurt a couple of seasons ago. Glasner wanted him. He's got his man. He was a number 10. He's scoring goals pre-season too, Kamada. Just pay attention there at 5.5 million, I'd suggest. So look, let's move away then from the midfielders. That's 5 really good midfielders, and 2 of them were over 3%. I do have 1 more player over 3% I'm going to get to. But let's continue with the theme of proper differential, shall we? So to do that, Lewis Hall of Newcastle. 0.7% owned, 4.5 million. Newcastle defence has got a lot of 4.5 options, and we're not guaranteed that Livramento or Kelly or Byrne or Hall will start. But from all of them, I think, unless Trippier goes, it's Livramento. But pre-season, Lewis Hall's been playing left back and he's been playing really, really well. He also ended the season really well for Newcastle. So with that in mind, I might just punt there, you know. The fixtures are great. Southampton, Bournemouth, Spurs, Wolves, Fulham in the first 5 game weeks. I see a couple of clean sheets there. I really do. And Lewis Hall offers something in attack. He might just be the differential to go for a Newcastle attack. Most are picking Dan Burn. Sure. But I think Hall offers more upside than Dan Burn if we think he's going to be a starter. Again, we need to see a little bit more in pre-season, and ideally we get some quotes from Eddie Howe. But he ended the season at left back. Pre-season he's played left back. I'd like to think he's going to be first choice left back. Dan Burn could take it, but Burn should be playing left centre back. So that's where we're at with Lewis Hall. I really like him. I've been watching Hall for ages. He was a kid at Chelsea. I was gutted Chelsea sold him. Guys, do hit that like and subscribe button, by the way. If you're enjoying this sort of content, just let me know. Subscribing and liking and commenting on the video is the best way of doing that. Aina at Forest is 0.7%. I'm only touching on 2 defenders here, and they're both 0.7% and both 4.5 million, and both might be in my team game week 1. I was like, looking at the Forest fixtures, I knew I wanted a Forest player. I was like, under Nuno, they're going to keep clean sheets. Because remember Nuno from Wolves. Nuno at Wolves kept clean sheets. And the Forest underlying data last season under Nuno was really good in terms of expected goals against them. And then I look at the fixtures and go, yeah, they'll play back 5, good fixtures, good players. Murillo was the obvious one, but I spoke to Mark Southerns, the founder of Fantasy Football Scout and of FPL Black Box the other day. And Mark was like, he's a Forest fan. He was like, go Aina, because you'll get some upside. And he's nailed. Right wing back. I remember, again, a Chelsea fullback, just like Lewis Hall. We've turfed him out, but he's very good. I fancy Aina to do well, and I think he offers more upside than Murillo consistently, as long as you think he'll start. So Aina is definitely one to consider. We're going to speak about forwards in just a second, okay? But before we speak about forwards, let me draw your attention to, again, another Forest player. So we're going to go back to a Forest goalkeeper. We've still got 3 players to get through, right? So Forest goalkeeper here, Miguel. He's new to the game. Haven't even got a picture of him on the FPL website. He's 2% owned. He's 4.5 million. I think he's 6'6". Could even be taller than that. Forest have had big issues at the back. They bought 2 keepers last year in Matt Turner and Sells. Neither of them have been good. And I think Miguel could be the number 1. And if he is, you could have a set and forget 4.5 million. Instead of an Aina or a Murillo, you could just go for the Forest keeper. I'm certainly, guys, promise you this, I'm going to cover Nottingham Forest defensively some way, shape or form. I'm not sure if it will be Miguel. I'm not sure if it will be Aina. But it will be a defender or a goalkeeper from Palace in my game week 1 team, because I just like the defensive data from last season under Nuno. I like the fact that we know Nuno keeps clean sheets. I like the fact it's a back 5, and I like the fixtures. They've also strengthened, right, with signings from centre-back signings, with goalkeeper signings. I think they're going to be good. So we've got Miguel in here. Let's see if we think he'll be number 1, though. If we do, I think he will be. And the biggest issue was conceding from set pieces, Forest. Now, having a 6'6+ goalkeeper will help combat conceding from set pieces. They've also signed a giant centre-back from Fiorentina. So that's a goalkeeper. What about 2 forwards? We've got to talk about some striker differentials, because we've had some good midfielders, but what about the forwards? And there are, guys, a couple we have to discuss. So before we do that, if you fancy joining my mini league, by the way, there's a code again in the description and on screen, M7UEO5 for my mini league. So Johan Visser, he's very good, and he's never been guaranteed to start because Tony's always been above him in the pecking order. They've signed various forwards. The big summer signing is now injured for a few months. Visser has always been talked about at Brentford as the best finisher at the club. And again, he often played alongside Tony, but sometimes at first sub. If again, you think this is going to be starting come game week 1 and Tony could be sold, Brentford have nice fixtures. He's 2.6% owned and he's only 6 million. Also, if Tony's not on the pitch, Visser will be on pens. Pre-season, Visser took a pen. So if Tony's not on the pitch or he is sold, Visser could be an option. And Brentford are just a fun team to back when the fixtures are right. And Palace at home, Southampton at home, West Ham at home, and they're 3 opening home games. He won't be one for me, but I can see why loads would like the guy from the DRC. Little rhyme there. Let's talk about my number 10 pick, though, because, again, this is a player that I am considering. Before we go to number 10 pick, let me just bring your attention back to Sleeper, because as I've been doing this, I know many of you would have downloaded the app, and I just want to make sure you're not having issues with it. So the idea with the app is there's a link in the description. You download that and you join my Sleeper League to win a PS5 in the opening game week. But there's going to be weekly prizes throughout the season, football shirts mostly, but PS5 sometimes. And at the end of season, I'm going to have this grand prize, probably a MacBook. It's free. It's no gambling. It's no tokens or cryptocurrencies. It's a brilliant, brilliant app. If you've ever played NFL fantasy, you've probably used Sleeper. It's an American company. They're moving into soccer and they're partnering with me to promote it. So the Pick'em game that I'm promoting is 10 games each weekend. All FPL games, fantasy games, Premier League games, you just pick win, lose, or draw. United win, Fulham win, or a draw. So I've gone draw, I've gone Liverpool win, I've gone Arsenal win, I've gone Brighton to beat Everton, and it's 1 point per each. And then it's totaled up. There's a QR code on screen if you want to scan it. If you're listening on podcast, then there's also a link in the description, guys. I think you're going to love Sleeper. And if you go through the link, you'll go straight into my mini league to have a chance of winning a PS5 in the opening weekend. Let's go then to my last pick. This is pick 10. This is actually the third player over 3%. I've gone for Rodrigo Muniz. We didn't have him last year when he was banging, and I don't know why. And this year, we're all overlooking him again. He's 6% owned, so he's the highest player I've talked about in today's show. But he's so much better than the 5.5s, isn't he? I mean, João Pedro's good. Adam Armstrong's could be a good option. Visser's a good option. I think Rodrigo is the best. The fixtures are there for Fulham. In the ticker, they're right at the top, Fulham. And I remember how Fulham started the season last time round. They started really well. Visser is definitely on my mind, but Muniz is proper on my mind if I go for 6 million. I think it will be Muniz. Could he have penalties? We're not sure. Pereira, when he's on the pitch, probably has them. It used to be Willian. He's gone. Smith Rowe's addition, 5.5 mid, by the way. I like Smith Rowe too. But Smith Rowe's addition could be massive for Rodrigo. A proper creator in that team. De Croydon, De Bruyne, Smith Rowe. And I just think Rodrigo, he's got the number 9 shirt now. Fulham start the season well. Full pre-season. Definitely a tempter if you're going for that cheap forward. So they are my top 10 differentials. If you've enjoyed the video, do hit that like button. Do hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys for checking out Sleeper. You won't regret this. Genuinely, they are an awesome brand to be associated with. I'm delighted that I'm going to give you guys, my subs, loads of prizes throughout the season. So make sure you're hitting the download button. And I will see you for another video very, very soon. Things are hottening up now. Bye-bye.